Today we're going to be talking about how to get wider lats, bigger biceps, and bigger forearms on pull day. We'll go over how to lay out these sessions within a week. We'll go over how to lay your movements within a day, how to choose exercises, including how to create just about an infinite number of pulling variations, how to select your isolation movements, which sets and reps to choose. And by the end of it, you'll have a completely written pull day you can slot into your program or into half of your upper day. First things first, we need to figure out which movements train your back, biceps, and forearms. Starting with the back, we have the vertical pulls. These are going to be like your pull-ups slash pull-downs of all the different variations. And these are going to target more of your lats. We have your horizontal pulls, which are going to be your row variations. And then for the biceps, anything where your elbows start like this, your elbow starts like this and then comes like this, any sort of elbow flexion, that's going to train your biceps. And then your forearms, these are going to be trained with any movement where your hand starts like this and ends like this or like this. Real quick, if you want to lay out your pull day alongside me, make sure you go to the link in the description to get access to my free program design tool. So how do we lay these out within a week? Normally, your back muscles are hit twice a week. Biceps and forearms are normally hit 2 to 3, sometimes maybe even 4 times a week for some people, but probably 2 or 3. And then your pulls will be done as part of your total body or your upper day. Okay, so now how do we lay out our movements within an individual day? Normally, I have 2 or 3 back movements, at least one of each of the pulls, vertical or horizontal, and then like a more accessory-esque type pull for one of those two, either the upper back or the lats, and then 1 to 2 bicep movements, and then normally 1 forearm movement. And then you're going to want to order these by priority and then fatigue. So if there is no priority and you're indifferent, you probably want to do your pull downs first, your big compound movements, before doing your smaller isolation movements. Now, if you have all the time in the world, you can do 1 to 2 movements for each target, or even 3 for the back, like I talked about here. Or you can just do 2 or 3 movements and either slot that in half of your upper day or make it its own quick 30-minute day. I'll show you how to do that. I'll talk about this one in a second. Okay, so now that we have all of our movements laid out and stuff, let's talk about how to actually select these exercises and figure out which one is best for you. So when it comes to selecting movements, there are really 2 things. The first thing is joint pain, and then if no, then it's probably a good movement. But secondarily, can you feel it in the target muscle or muscle groups? So I don't like to use this as much, but it's a good secondary thing. If you have a bunch of movements where your joints don't hurt and you think they could be working, which one do you feel it the best? Which one gives you the best pumps? Which one makes you the most sore maybe after the session? This is a secondary metric you can use to gauge your workouts or your exercise selection if there's multiple different movements for the same target that feel good. So we have a few different levers we can pull, or sliders, I guess you can say, when it comes to pulls. So we have vertical or horizontal. Within each of these, we can choose 2 things first. We can choose to retract our scaps as much as possible, targeting our upper back, mid back, or we can choose to take keep our shoulders fixed and pull our elbows to our side, targeting more of our lats. You can do a combination of both. Obviously, you can pull to your side and then finish through, but those are the 2 main things that we think about, or at least I think about when I'm doing pulls. One's going to target your upper back more, your mid back. One's going to target your lats. For the horizontal pulls, like the rows, this is going to look more like pulling to your upper chest versus pulling lower on your body. If you pull, like if you have a barbell and you pull it down to your stomach area, that's just going to tuck your elbows and target more lats. But then if you pull up here, you flare your elbows out, you're going to be able to retract your scaps a lot more. Just put bar position, machine position, whatever. So this whole thing works for any piece of equipment. Every single piece of equipment is best for somebody. You just have to figure out which one is best for you. Now after this, we have our hand position. We can either go with the normal grip, the neutral grip, or the underhand grip. As you go from normal to underhand, you're just going to get more bicep involvement, activation, whatever. So the least amount of biceps are going to be used if you pull horizontally or vertically from this position. You're going to get a little more if you pull from the neutral grip, and then the underhand grip is going to get the most bicep activation on your pulls. We'll go normal grip, neutral grip, underhand grip, and that's the same for all these here. And then once we select our equipment, we decide what our pulling focus is going to be, and then we decide our grip. We can then choose our grip width. So if we're doing a normal grip, like I said, you can do close, you can do it a closer grip, you can do more of a normal grip or a wider grip. And then same thing for the neutral grip. Underhand grip, you're probably going to be closer anyways. This is kind of uncomfortable and awkward to do it super wide out, but then yeah, you have that entire spectrum of different grip widths that you can choose from. And then if we zoom out here, we have our pulls in general. And then we have all the different equipment, barbells, dumbbells, machines, cables, body weight, whatever. And then after we choose that, we have a vertical or horizontal pull. And then once we do all of that, we can then choose our different pulling path, again, our grip, and then our width. And this entire thing will give us just a plethora of different movements we can slot into our programs. And then when it comes to biceps, that's really just selecting your equipment, your barbell, easy bar, dumbbell, cable, or machine. One thing I like to try to do with my bicep curls is make sure like I'm not hanging at the bottom, finding a way to get tension throughout the entire range of motion. Not the biggest deal, but something I like to do. So if you're standing up and you're doing barbell curls, say this is like a person from the side, and you have your arms straight down hanging and you're holding the barbell or the easy bar, whatever. Say this is the side of the side of the bar here. If your arms are hanging straight down, gravity's pointing down, there's really no lever here. So you're kind of just hanging and relaxing, as you probably know that you do on a bicep curl. So what I kind of like to do here, as long as the weight's obviously not too heavy, which I don't do for curls anyways, one thing I will do is I will lean back ever so slightly, just a little bit, shift my weight to my heels, and then bring my arms just a little bit more out, like use my lats like as a backboard, I guess, and keep my arms just slightly more forward while I'm holding a dumbbell or barbell. And then this makes my lever like this. Gravity's pointing down, so there's a little bit more force being put on my bicep right here, which is the muscle that's holding all of this, and that allows me to get a little bit more tension throughout the entire range of motion. Now, if I'm using one of those cable machines, like the free motion ones, where it's like a big box here, and there's like the arms, and then the cable things are here, like this, and then I stand here and hold them, and then do my curls like that. What I will do is, if I'm standing like this, I don't know why I didn't draw the legs on the last guy, but if I'm standing like this and my arms hang down to here, for example, and then I will make sure that the cable isn't all the way down here and going straight up, because then now gravity's going this way, gravity's pulling this way instead of straight down like it does with free weights. Draw a head on this guy. I will move this up, like when if the thing is down here, gravity's going this way, so when you're straight down, there's nothing going on. What I will do instead is move it up a little bit, so then when I'm down here, as long as, like, obviously my arm isn't going to be completely straight, this is just an example, move it up here just a little bit, and you can play with this. There's not exactly an angle you should do to feel tension throughout the entire range of motion. This is just something I like to do. Gravity's then going this way while your arm is down here, so you're going to get some tension on that bicep that you're trying to grow, obviously. Nothing huge, nothing game changing, but just some things to consider. And then for the forearm curls, like I said, anything where your wrist starts like this and goes here, that's going to train your forearms, or the gripper things. I like to use cables personally to do forearm curls, but that's just me. Really, any piece of equipment will work, like I said. And then for sets and reps, like I said, really, or I don't know if I said this already, but anything really works. I'll normally do my heavier compound movements in lower rep ranges, just because I'll get more tired doing 20 reps of a pull down, and especially if you're doing pull-ups. But yeah, and then if you do curls, obviously super heavy has a much higher injury risk doing it on an isolation, so I don't tend to do that. And then forearms, I'll normally do like sets of 20, just because it's such a short little range of motion, and it's kind of just a dinky little movement, and I can do a ton of it, and why not? I'm never going to load up 1,000,000 pounds on a dumbbell forearm curl. And then for sets, you normally, what you do is just, you'll start at 2 or 3 for each of them, unless you know obviously what you can handle. And then let me show you a quick example of how I progress this. So I'll add a few days here. Say we're doing upper. Say this is an upper day, lower, and then pull push legs. We'll just use this back movement as an example. We'll do our vertical pulls. So say we start with 2. We do 2 sets on this first day. Here, I'll show you how, if you look in this top right corner, I'll show you how we'll lay out our days. We'll do the upper and the lower, and then we'll rest on that day 3. So say we do our vertical pull, 2 sets. By this next day, we're recovered by this day 2, we have this whole day 3 off, then we hit it again. Next week we can probably add a set because we weren't tired. Same thing here. If we do 2 sets here, we rest these 3 days, come back, and we were recovered days ago, we can add a set. And then that's basically how I progress sets, volume throughout a program for different muscles. And then just don't go willy-nilly adding 5 sets if you never get sore, because you're also going to be progressing weight and load. So those are other things you have to recover from, along with the volume you add. And then, yeah, just like that, it looks like you have a beautifully written pull day that you can slot either into half of your upper day if you use that minimalist one, or just an entire pull day you can slot into a push-pull legs back half or something like that. Like I said, go to link in the description to get access to my program designer so you can do all this yourself and lay it out for when you go to the gym. And then, yeah, check out this video next, and hopefully it'll help you get more bigger.